Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Alex. We are here to talk about the New York Giants' first preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings. Alex, how you doing this fine morning? The Giants play in 24 hours.
Doing well, doing well. Yeah, they play obviously big asterisks with it being preseason, but still excited and good to see them back on the field for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring on the field on Saturday. I think we have a kind of different viewpoint. If football is football, I understand that obviously the games aren't going to mean anything, like the record and the schedule, whatever it is. But I'm a good, I would say I'm a pretty big fan of preseason football more than most. I explore the games that are on. Like last night, we had our first round of games. I don't know if you tuned in all. I tuned in. I enjoy it because I find out the backups on these teams. Like for example, last night it was the Packers and Steelers playing, which okay, Aaron Rodgers return against Jordan Love with the Packers. No, it's not that. They're not playing. But you explore depth charts and you explore rosters, and then you remember these guys that, something maybe that Alex and I, like when we would look at drafts in 2021, you're like, oh my God, I remember him. He's the sixth wide receiver on this team, but like I remember scouting him. Last night, I found out that Syracuse's former quarterback, Kyle McCord, is the third string on the Packers. Had no idea. And dude balled out last night. So, like, that was fun to watch. I like just exploring the depth charts, exploring the rosters, and then you see where these guys have gone and their trajectories in the NFL, even if they might not make the roster. So, especially now that I get to watch that with my own team, I'm just really excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I'd be interested to see what the Giants end up doing, Alex. I'm sure you've been seeing the rumors of Jaxson Dart playing at least a drive in this game. So I guess let's start out there. Do you think Jaxson Dart will be playing in this game? And if so, for how long?
Yeah, I think we'll see him for one drive. I think exactly as you put it. I think we'll see him for one drive, maybe one more drive in the third game, but that's probably about it. Would be my best guess. But I'm expecting to see a lot of the starters out there, at least for the first drive. Um, you know, get everything going. Harbaugh in the past has kind of done that, so I expect nothing different, despite being on a new team. And I always am a fan of playing your starters in preseason, even more extensively, to be honest, at least a quarter, maybe even a half, because you want to get out there, like you mentioned. You're still on the grass, or I guess in the turf in this case, and you're still getting your feet in there in actual game speed, play. So I do think that's still very valuable, despite whether or not people talk about the injury risk or whatnot, but I think that risk is far outweighed by getting some reps there in live game action.
Now I know that you just mentioned like the live game action and the reps and the injury risk. Let's talk about Cam Skattebo for a second here, because if you're talking about the starters, I would assume that means that Cam Skattebo takes the field.
Yeah.
Are you by it all means, I guess, are you nervous about that just because of coming back after the ankle injury? Neighbors obviously won't play because he's still iffy about a week one start. So why would he's not going to play in a preseason week one game. But does, in terms of injury worry, Skattebo going out there for a drive or two, however long they play these starters, if they do play, does that worry you as a Giants fan at all?
Not necessarily, not really any more than any other period of time. Obviously, I guess that's always in the back of your mind after watching what happened last year. But I think in this particular scenario, I'm not necessarily nervous. I'm almost more excited to kind of see where he's at, in
Yeah.
a physicality standpoint, in terms of, okay, how much drive does he still have the power that he had before? And letting him kind of build his way back into it as well. But honestly, I'm not necessarily nervous that the same exact injury is going to happen again. But of course, you're a little bit more cautious with guys who are coming back from a major injury.
Yeah, I would lean towards I would rather him save it for week one of the regular season. But I understand, like you said, you're a big fan of getting live reps for these guys, so I can understand that point. He hasn't played in a long time, so I'd understand why you'd want to get him on the field too. But I don't know. Skattebo scares me a little bit in terms of just the way he plays, Alex. I mean, we talked about it many times on this show, but just the way he plays is very aggressive, and one wrong aggressive move can turn uh, a season around or whatever it may be. Now, I know that the way he got injured last year was just the most unfortunate circumstance, and it really didn't necessarily have to do with aggression. Just a bad way to land, really. But yeah, that just scares me if like he's gonna put his head down and drive forward. To do that in a preseason week 1 game, not my favorite. Not my favorite. But we'll have to see how that goes. And then a couple new additions, Alex. The New York Giants will probably see on the field a couple new receiving targets play their first games. Calvin Austin, Darnell Mooney, Malachi Fields, Juju Smith-Schuster, Braxton Berrios, and yes, I left one name off the list intentionally for last. Odell Beckham Jr., Alex, will be seen wearing the Giants blue and white and red, whatever they're wearing, for the first time in many years. We got the news earlier this week. Odell would be playing in this game. How do you feel that Odell Beckham is making his return with the New York Giants, Alex?
Do you want me to be honest?
Yeah, no, lay it all out.
I couldn't care less. This guy, he's either going to be the back end of the roster or potentially not even make it. There's not been any signs that, besides one clip that they put together everywhere on social media, of any resurgence.
Another one-hand catch.
I don't care. Yeah, like it is what it is. I'm honestly more excited to see Calvin Austin or Malachi Fields out there.
That's what I was going to say. If not really. Him, then
anybody.
If not him, then who would you want to see? Okay. Yeah, I would say Malachi Fields. I like to see Malachi Fields. I mean, because I think he'll be out there quite significantly. Like, I think he's going to get 2 quarters worth, especially because of
rookies get run. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like it's not a rookie, like it's not a first round pick rookie. So he should get at least 2 quarters worth of action. And I'd really like to see that. I think that would be really cool. So then, speaking of familiar names, or new names, I should say, sorry, but familiar to us, we've heard them before from being watchers of NFL football. Isaiah Likely and Patrick Ricard, too. 2 Ravens that are making the move from the Giants, or the Ravens to the Giants, playing in their first games. I would say we see Ricard more than we see Likely, just because you're not really switching fullbacks much. But Alex, I mean, what are your thoughts on those 2 guys making their first appearances in the Giants blue?
Yeah, excited to see Likely out there on the field moving. Ricard, I don't think we're really going to see much of. I don't think it necessarily in a preseason game, but excited to see at least kind of how they're set up for a few snaps with him in formation. But yeah, no, it'll be cool to see some of those Ravens guys. I guess we'll see a little bit of Jordan Stout too, punting. Most likely the Giants always are punting, so shouldn't be an issue there. So there's a lot of new guys in terms of the special teams units as well, that a lot of shake up there, and also just kind of getting to see a little bit of a flavor of what the scheme's going to look like on the offensive and defensive side of the ball this year. A little bit of game management as well. I know everyone was joking because Vrabel chucked the challenge flag, 10,000 feet last night, despite it being a preseason game. So, let's see how Harbaugh takes it and go from there. But I'm interested to see kind of just the general themes that we see, whether that's in the coaching staff, the offense, the defense, special teams, etc.
All right. And then just continuing one more point here. We're also going to see the first round picks for the New York Giants, the 2 of them that they had. Arvell Reese on the defensive side and Francis Mauigoa on the offensive side. I don't know how long they'll play, but they will certainly play. Alex, anything here that you want to note? I'm sure we will be getting from our friend Bobby Skinner, who we have a video breakdown of like the 2 minutes every Francis Mauigoa snap from this game. I could see it already happening. I know he has it planned out. Obviously he loves obsessing that offensive line. So I'm sure. And I mean, when we talked to him, that's who he wanted at 5 for the Giants to take, and they got him at 10. So, anything from Mauigoa or Arvell Reese?
Yeah, excited to see both of them. I think hopefully they'll get more than one drive at least. Maui Noah, excited to see this whole offensive line. Even though I'd imagine they're probably not going to play Andrew Thomas, would be my best guess. But still would like to
I
see
would
the
agree
rest of the
with that.
line, how it looks. And then on defense, yeah, excited to see Arvell Reese. Very interested because most likely they're not going to be going up against the starters for the Vikings. But, how do they look in terms of stopping the run game? The Vikings don't necessarily have great backs or a great offensive line. So how do they handle that, which is an area of concern? And then obviously the secondary, which we've been talking about, is a concern. How does Arvell Reese's athleticism help potentially kind of cancel out that weakness? Excited to see that, and just excited to see him moving about on the football field, Josh. And I
Yeah.
think it'll be exciting for Giants fans to watch, and hopefully he makes a few splash plays.
Yeah, before we do our players to watch, Alex, to wrap up this episode about the offense and the defensive side, I mean, you talk about how well. I think you might have mentioned it off air. I don't know how much you mentioned it on air about right before we recorded about preseason being Alex, we're facing a team that has been the center of attention this week in terms of the NFL. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings have been all over the news because of Kyler Murray being announced the official starter over first round pick JJ McCarthy. And they're going to be at the heart of the NFL media world, and also NFL fans will most likely be watching this Giants Vikings game for that very reason. Now, I know preseason doesn't mean much, but if Kyler Murray goes out there for the first drive with a few plays, if he gets to even play, and he has like a dull, 0 for 5, 1 for 7, and then JJ McCarthy goes like 7 for 12, like that is going to start some more talk. So I think that's going to be interesting too, because it's not like the Giants defense won't be on the field. They're going to be on the field, and they're actually going to have a say in maybe what occurs in Vikings world and an NFL world, in terms of this quarterback, not controversy, but decision. At least I think a lot of people saw this Kyler Murray decision coming, but I just find it funny that it's the Giants that are playing the Vikings after this whole decision gets made throughout the week. I don't know how much you kept in tabs with that throughout the week this week.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting. And I think the choice makes sense, to be honest. We know what you get out of Kyler Murray. And honestly, he's never really had a great team or coaching around him. And now you get Kevin O'Connell coaching him up. I think, there's potential for him to be very valuable to the Vikings this year. But definitely, yeah, it's always funny how the timing works out for the Giants, right?
Yeah, so that'll be fun, and I'm really excited to watch the Giants play some football. That game will be Saturday at 1 p.m. So you get used to the 1 p.m.s, gets you super excited, probably seeing that time, but it's on a Saturday, and then that's when you're like, right, it's preseason. Before we go, let's give 2 players to watch on the offensive side, 2 players to watch on the defensive side. I'll let Alex figure out who he's thinking. I will select my players first. On the offensive side, I kind of gave you a little tease, a little preview what I was thinking, but I am going to say Malachi Fields for the New York Giants. I'm excited to see him. I saw what he did at Notre Dame last year. I saw what Notre Dame did to Syracuse when they won 70-0. And Malachi Fields was a big part of that. He scored at least 1 touchdown in that game. A 6'4" frame wide receiver, 225 pounds, basically. I'm excited to see what he can do on the outside. So that's my first offensive player. And then my second offensive player, I don't know how many snaps we're going to see out of Isaiah Likely, but I know that Isaiah Likely is basically wide receiver 2. I posted the video, Alex, on social media, I think it was last night, of us talking with Bobby about who is going to be wide receiver 2. And a few of the comments were, it doesn't matter because Isaiah Likely is wide receiver number 2, which they're not wrong. I feel like it will be Neighbors and then Likely in terms of the receiving order. And when we end the season and we look back at the yardage, in terms of who has the most receiving yards. So Isaiah Likely and Malachi Fields on offense. All right, I'll let you choose offense, and then we'll shift to defense. Who are your 2 guys?
Yeah. So starting on the offensive side of the ball, one guy I'm very intrigued to see play is Marcus Bowe on the offensive line. I think we'll get a decent dose of him, potentially filling in at left tackle for Andrew Thomas with those starting guys. I want to see how he keeps up. Are we going to see some progression from him? Because we kind of all have these expectations that eventually down the line, he could be one of those 5 starters for the New York Giants. So hoping to see a little bit of a leap there. And then the other guy, I think I mentioned him earlier, Calvin Austin, had an underrated, sneaky, successful season with the Steelers last year, had a really good connection with Aaron Rodgers. And I think he could really bring a different dynamic to this Giants offense in a Wan'Dale Robinson style role from the slot. The slot role is definitely not clear and cut out for the Giants. Obviously, we expect Likely to take a lot of those snaps, but when Likely's not on the field, who's going to be that guy in the slot? I think it could be Calvin Austin. Excited to see him kind of go off in preseason, as I've seen him do in years past, and also see him in the special teams department as well, Josh.
I'm very surprised Darnell Mooney was not shouted out there.
I did not select Darnell Mooney. I think I kind of know what we're going to get from Darnell Mooney at this point. So,
but you like Darnell Mooney, so I'm
I do like Darnell Mooney. I think
maybe he'll be your week 1 player to watch.
There we go. Maybe.
All right, let's go to the defensive side. Darius Alexander is my first player because, well, Shelby Harris and DJ Reader are veterans on this Giants team. They're coming over from many other teams that they've played for in their long careers. But Darius Alexander is a younger player. He's only 25 years old. He's only spent the past year, right? This is his second season with the New York Giants. And he did pretty sneaky well especially at the end of his first season with New York. And I just want to see him excel even more. This is a time for him to step up. He was kind of overshadowed by Dexter Lawrence last year. And then Dexter Lawrence decided to just not be Dexter Lawrence. So then at the end of the year, he got more reps and he capitalized on those reps. So now I want to see him do it again. And I think he will play in this game for sure. We'll see how many snaps he gets, but that'll be interesting. And I'm excited to watch him play. And then my second guy, I'm going to let a lot of people go off the board here, Alex, for your selection, if you'd like it. People are probably not going to like who I say, but this is just a guy who I enjoyed in the draft and liked watching his tape once the Giants drafted him. And that's Jack Kelly, the linebacker out of BYU. I'm just interested to see how he plays in zone coverage, how he's going to play against the run, and also if he has to guard a tight end outside the backfield. I'd be very interested in how he plays in coverage. Everyone will be watching Arvell Reese line up at linebacker, but then when Arvell Reese goes out for the second half, or maybe even after the first quarter, Jack Kelly's going to be on the field for the last 3 other quarters. So we'll be able to see more Jack Kelly snaps than Arvell Reese snaps. And so that's why if we're talking in a preseason game, who's the second guy I want to watch on defense is someone who's going to play for the majority of the game. And so Jack Kelly, I'd be very interested to see what he brings to the field. Giants 6th round pick, I want to say it was in this year's draft.
Yeah, I'm going to go both in the secondary. Obviously, we've talked about that as an issue. First guy is a guy who I feel like is finally, for the first time maybe in his NFL career, have some upward momentum, and that's Deonte Banks. He has definitely, not looked terrible in training camp, which I think is the best thing people have said about him so far in his NFL career. And Paulson Adebo looks like a guy who is MIA and potentially in risk of losing his starting spot. Can Deonte Banks prove that he can be a capable NFL corner?
That's insane.
What? That I picked him or that he's capable?
No, that's insane that Paulson Adebo, who the Giants just signed for an absurd amount of money last offseason, can go from being the savior, the CB1 of these next 3 years and like be a Pro Bowler. Like that's what everyone thought. And now he's at risk of losing his starting spot to Deonte Banks, who was also supposed to be the savior, the CB1.
It's a roller coaster. It's a domino. Yeah.
And yet both of these guys have failed. Now, Adebo has been a shorter sample size, but like it's just like, oh my goodness. Anyway, continue talking about Banks. My apologies for butting in.
Yeah, and I think, there's opportunity there for him to get a starting role and fight for a starting role and potentially kind of revive his career with this new regime. And the other guy I want to talk about is maybe a guy you could consider the second or third best player in the Giants secondary, and no one's really talking about him. And that's Arvell Washington, obviously from the Baltimore Ravens, had a sneaky good career up until up until this point, and he's still only 25 years old. A guy who's both played in the slot and at safety, and I'm interested to see kind of how they use him in combination with Drew Phillips. And also then his interactions with Tyler Nubin. Is Tyler Nubin going to be on the field at the same time as Arvell Washington? How are they planning on using Arvell Washington, as he is one of their more talented secondary guys? And as you know, Josh, and we've been talking about this, there's not a whole lot of talent to be found. So if they can kind of get some run with these guys, and potentially Arvell Washington can go through and be a guy who could be on the field and be effective on the field in the secondary, that's going to be a big thing for this team.
Yeah. I mean, I think the defensive back position is just so scary, Alex. Again, I hate to keep like referencing it, but yeah, please go check out our video episode if you want to listen to it too with Bobby Skinner, because we dive into the secondary room and we all basically agreed that we are nervous for how they are going to play this season, to put it lightly. But hopefully maybe a little shining light out of a pool of darkness can be Arvell Washington there in terms of the DB's room. But I'm excited. I don't know how many times I could say it until they actually kick off. But Saturday at 1 p.m., I'll be locked in. I'll be glued on the couch, and I'll be watching the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings play football, because that's all we wanted for months now was football. And regardless of if it's preseason or regular season, it's happening, and it's the New York Giants playing a game. So I'm excited for it. You should be too. We appreciate you listening or watching this episode of the Giant Take podcast. If you want to help support us even more, you can hit that subscribe button, like the video down below, or if you're listening, you can rate us 5 stars on the platform that you're listening on. Keep on checking out our social platforms, the Giant Take Pod on all of them: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Been pumping out a bunch of content on there. So if you want to hear from the press conferences of players and John Harbaugh, or just takes going around out there, highlights from the show, definitely go check that out on socials. Alex is on X at Anorian23. I'm on there at JoshSholo29. And we will catch you in the next episode of the Giant Take Podcast. We'll see you then. Peace.